If we've never met before, my name is Rachel, and I like to talk about overcoming suffering, becoming your happiest and highest self, spirituality, intimacy, holistic health, because I have overcome so much, and I want to share that with other people. So I do share my story. If you want more one-on-one support, I do offer readings, coaching, or energy healing. Energy healing can help with anything, basically. Physical symptoms, emotional symptoms. Reading would be more like spiritual coaching. Like if you don't understand what's going on in your life, we can kind of get an unbiased view, meaning not just a person-to-person perspective and ego problem solving, but something higher. And if you want coaching, that would be more of a longer term, working on weight loss or intimacy, loving yourself, etc. I do have a book right now. I have a podcast, which are linked down below. I'll probably come up with a course or two in the future, so stay tuned. I have ideas, but actually making it has been, I don't know. I want to do videos more. I want to talk. I want to share with the world. So yeah. Oh, if you want to comment down below what you'd like to see next, that would be super helpful. If you want to give this video a like because it helps you and gives you value, I'd highly appreciate it. And or if you want to subscribe to stick around, I would also super appreciate it. If not, that's okay too. Today, I'm going to talk about my experience in chanting Myoho Renge. Kind of not a disclaimer, but what I always like to share is I only share from my personal experience. So this is just going to be my story. Everyone's story is different, so I just like to say and talk about my experience. But I've learned a lot on this journey, honestly, like so much. There's so much to get into, which is what I want to do now. You know, I'm just not as afraid of sharing my story and my experience, and I know people are seeking it out. So I need to be seen more and more, and really honoring that has been, I've been true to myself this whole experience, and that's something that no one can ever take away from me, and I feel super proud of. So when it comes to Myoho Renge Kyo, this is my experience. Let's see. I think I was out of college, so I must have been 23 or 24 when I went to an introduction to Buddhism meeting, and I just saw that locally here in my town. Well, I was living at my mom's at that point, so I was actually in that town. I live really close to there now, but and I was like, I'm just going, you know, like Buddhism is something that's always kind of called to me. I don't really know much about it. When my mom separated from my dad at 16, so that was like the biggest turning point in my healing journey. I mean, it was the thing that hurt me the most at an early age that I was actually aware of, like why it hurt so bad. But she turned to Buddhism at one point for a little bit, so I was like, it's caught my eye, right? So I remember at this meeting I went in, and I actually knew one of the women that was there already because she was my second homeopath that I had worked with, and I didn't know that she was a part of this organization, but she was there. And then I met someone that I am still friends with to this day, who's older. She's probably 70, late 70s now, but she's, you know, kind of like a grandma, kind of like a friend, and she was there. And then there was like a, you know, the local sponsor who I ended up meeting with more after the meeting, who was a mom age, you know, probably 10, 15 years older than me. And other people too. But it was just cool to talk to them and understand more about their practice. So this practice specifically, or leg of Buddhism, is Nichiren Buddhism, which comes from Japan. And Nichiren Daishonin was a monk or a priest, I forget exactly, out of Japan, who formed this, like I said, leg of Buddhism. So I didn't know that there are different kinds of Buddhism, right? The woman that, like I said, was my eventual sponsor, she's like, I had tried like transcendental meditations and Buddhism, but this one was the one that actually changed my life. So I was like, okay, interesting. there's a lot of, again, I'm not an expert in it at all. This is just part of my story that's really helped me. But this form of Buddhism uses chanting, and chanting the mantra Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which means I devote myself to the mystic law of cause and effect. I might be forgetting a part in there, but I think that's what it is. So kind of the basics of that mantra, from, again, what I understand and believe and what has helped me, is you can overcome. So what I like about Buddhism is that they understand that suffering is a necessary part of life. Even the first Buddha, there's a story that he's a prince, and he's like, man, this life, there's more to it. And he escapes the castle walls and he goes out into the whatever. I kind of see Aladdin, right? Jasmine is the princess and she's like, there's more to this life. And then she goes out and sees. But the Buddha still sees that there is suffering out there. So that's what I like about Buddhism. It's like, suffering is a part of life. And you can overcome any suffering to become happy. Like, challenges and problems are actually your way to enlightenment and to happiness. And raising your overall vibration. Like, you overcoming that thing is what is going to make you happy. And that has been my experience 100% to a T. So it's crazy to, just be on this journey. But the practice uses that. So there are prayers. I don't have my book in front of me, but you get a little prayer book and you can have beads. And there's kind of like, it's all in Japanese. But it's kind of like chanting a passage, and then you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo for however many minutes. And gosh, thinking back to when I was at that point in my journey, I just liked meeting with a sponsor, like I was really searching for meaning and purpose. And I think looking back, a part of that was because I was a student, from age 5 to 22, and I was good at school. And then becoming an adult, I'm like, who am I without school? Like, who am I? Because I was good at school. That was my identity. And there was a part of me that's always been this seeker, and I want to become happy and enlightened, and I just wanted to be myself, but I didn't know who that was quite yet. So early on, I remember just chanting to become happy. I chanted to find my purpose and what I'm doing here. I went to a lot of meetings. So there is a center here in Minneapolis, but there isn't like a center in Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota. So that's like a center where a couple meetings a month are at, but then other meetings would be in members' homes in the community. So I liked that. Sometimes Buddhism is called another type of religion. However, there was a member and someone who I actually lived in her basement because I met her through the organization. She's Indian, so she is Hindi or Hindu kind of as religion, and she saw this form of Buddhism as a philosophy, like a way to look at life. And I was like, that's cool. Like you can have both. It doesn't have to be so limiting. So that is something that I've just found in my spiritual journey, right? Like I'm more spiritual than religious. I think religion, humans have made a lot of rules and stuff I don't necessarily agree with, and the organization itself sometimes I can kind of push back on. So being on this spiritual path and just understanding where I am and my story and my journey has been a huge part of my empowerment process. So that's something I'm always going to recommend to people. Like your spirituality, your purpose for being here, your philosophy, again, it's going to differ from everybody's, but really finding a meaning and what you're here to do will set you free, and it'll help you just live your life kind of rooted in values and what you're here to do. And even when all the distractions happen, even when all the hard things happen, you can always come back to yourself and what you're here to do. And that's what I do, like I know what I'm here to do. I'm here to help people, and I'm here to have fun and enjoy my life. and I do get caught in my feelings, and I get caught in hard, difficult things at times, yet always on the other side of it, I come back to myself, and I'm this new version of myself that's very strong and powerful. Anyway, I digressed to chanting. So it is a prayer. Again, this is through the organization, but chanting in the morning and in the evening. So daily practice. And then I just liked having the people in the organization like be there for me. Everyone was so nice and welcoming, and we could have deep conversations and study and understand and learn from each other. So I really liked that too. However, you can also start chanting just on your own. I've recommended this mantra to so many people because there are so many people who are like, I'm suffering. How do I overcome this? Here's a problem. Here's a challenge. And I'm like, start to raise your vibration. Like, as you activate this mantra, you are saying to the universe and saying to yourself, I'm ready to overcome this thing. And you can focus on anything. You can chant for gratitude. You can chant to become happy. You can chant for more money. You can chant for anything, like family harmony. And I've basically like changed all my karma in all of these parts of my life. At one point, I do remember I wanted to talk to, I would say the mentor that's older than me. So I've met with her a number of times, and I was saying to her, I'm like, man, like, how can my career change? Like, I was really looking at my life very sector, and there's all these parts of my life, and she's like, just chant to raise your overall vibration. And I'm like, you're right. Like, just focus on you becoming the next best version of yourself that you want to be. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I need to write down every single detail, like my bank account needs to grow by this much, I need to treat my partner this way, I need to attract this kind of person, blah blah blah, friendships. Like, you could get into human design and look at what kind of manifestor you are. There's specific and non-specific. I am the non-specific one, which just kind of means focus on the emotions and feelings that you want to have, and that's how your life manifests. Some people do need to focus on the specifics. However, if you just want a happier, healthier, more awesome life, which is what I want to help people with, just overall raise your vibration. And again, that's why I like this holistic point of view, because I have raised my vibration at that spiritual level, but I also did emotional work overcoming trauma, and I've done it through my physical body, like detoxing and changing my diet and healing my leaky gut. And there has been a lot of pieces to the puzzle. So overall, that's something that I just very much value. One thing you can also keep in mind or remember is if you start to chant and the darkness comes up, the challenges, like, that is common. And that's because they use this metaphor, or the nice visual for it is, if you turn on like the hose outside and it hasn't been touched for a while, at first you're going to turn it on and there might be some dirt and muck and brown water that comes out, right? But the more you have that water on, the more clear and purified it becomes. And this, even in my healing journey and the alternative healing and holistic health realm, there's often a kind of crisis healing stage, which means that's when the symptoms are getting worse before they get better, because your body's kind of like, oh, okay, you really ready to get rid of this thing? And then you kind of find this new, I don't know, the other side of it. And again, I've had this through so many things. Like, when I did homeopathy, it was like a healing crisis. Like, I was like, okay, I don't feel very good. Body takes the remedy. Oh, I feel worse before I got better. But then I felt better, and I felt so much better. I just started doing like celery juice here again in March, and for the first couple of days, my digestion, my stomach, it was like, it wasn't good. But guess what? My body got used to it. Just, again, so many other examples I could go into. So that can be something that can happen, is, again, you're kind of claiming your new next level, that next vibration, energy, and point you want to be at in your life. So there is probably going to be a healing crisis of some sorts. But the more you chant, the more you overcome that, you change that karma, you take it into your own hands and say, no, I'm not doing this. I'm overcoming it no matter what. Despite all the challenges, everything that's thrown at me, I'm going to overcome it. That's just part of being on earth, if you couldn't tell from the experiences I just shared and what you're doing here. Like, you have to trade something, and energy works in this way where it's like going a certain way for a while, and then if you want to change it, there's kind of like a bumpy road, and then it smooths out again. But yeah, overall, that practice has, I mean, I started to manifest things that I always wanted, and I really do see my life now as I'm happy no matter what. And that is, again, despite like a couple days ago, like I was moody and emotional and super up and down and crying, and like really negative stuff was kind of purging. But I'm like, today I feel so much better. So, I mean, the overall long-term game, if you want to be happy, sustainably happy, is looking at the long-term game. How can I become happy over my whole entire life? Because what happens, why people are not in that cycle and experiencing that, is because they're chasing the dopamine. They're chasing the next high. So what happens is people are like, well, I'll be happy when I get that relationship, when I get the body I want, when I get that next job, when I get that next car, when I make that certain next amount of money. So that's what people do. They're like chasing that one thing, and then they get that thing, and then they're like, oh, because that happiness fades. Chasing that one thing doesn't last. So if you're looking for long-term sustainable happiness and a life that you actually enjoy, the kind of things that I talk about is what's going to get you there. And again, I'm not saying you have to, your journey is going to be different than mine, but the basis of a philosophy of a life that feels good, finding a diet that supports your body in healing and not making it sicker, finding people that actually add to your cup instead of take away from it, figuring out how you can have a life, making money and career that makes you feel good, and again, instead of doesn't drain you. That's what you need to focus on to have long-term sustainable happiness. I'm trying to think if there's anything else for Myoho Renge specifically. No, like I said, I like the philosophy of it. I have completely changed my life. You can chant as much or as little as you want to. So like I said, I've recommended this mantra to many people. You can go on YouTube, Myoho Renge. If you want to learn more about the organization, it is SGI USA if you're in the US, but Soka Gakkai International is the organization. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, you can chant it out loud on the way to something. You can chant it like 3 times in the morning. You can go 5, 10 minutes, 15, up to an hour. You can do hours. Like, there's no wrong way to do it. I would just recommend starting it, seeing what happens. There have been times where people have passed away, so then you just chant for their life condition, their family. It's a really cool superpower and tool to overcome anything and change any karma that one desires to. Karma in Sanskrit, it just means action. So the way I see it, again, whatever, you don't have to take this if you don't want to. I'm just supposed to share. I'm just a messenger. I know that I've had lots of past lives. I'm a very old soul, and actions in those lives, your brain can't comprehend everything that your soul knows. So I don't understand from a logical and ego or how or why perspective my karma is playing out as it is. It's just my job to, if I want something to change karmically and energetically, I need to take responsibility for it and say, I'm going to change this because I want something different. I want something different for me. I want something different for my family. I want something different for humanity as a whole, right? For Earth and this planet. That's what I'm all about, is empowerment and becoming your happiest and highest best self. So again, let me know if you have any questions or you want more resources. I love to talk about this. It's been a huge part of my journey. It's not as much of a focus as it once was. Kind of what happened is, I don't know, COVID happened and I didn't get vaccinated. I didn't get poked, and the organization was like, you need to have one of those cards to come back. And I was like, well, I don't. And then a lot of the meetings were on the weekends, and I've been working on the weekends. So, you know, life changes, but I don't have any regrets. And, you know, I'm thankful for every single part of my journey and chapter. And that's another part of the long-term sustainable happiness, is understanding how you can, in your own head, say, I'm thankful for every single thing that's happened to me. And that can actually happen with this practice, because that's something that really changed for me. But yeah, let me know what you want to see next. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.